Alright, you guys, let's analyze the graph of this rational function. First step, I'm going to factor the top and the bottom. If I pull out a 3x, I'm going to get an x minus 1 on top. The bottom, 12 or negative 12 rather, 4 times negative 3. And if you add these together, you get a 1. So I've got x plus 4, x minus 3 on bottom. And nothing cancels out, so that's as simplified as it gets. X and y intercepts, if I plug in 0 for x, I'm going to get a 0 on top, and so it doesn't really matter what's on the bottom. It's going to be 0. If I set this equal to 0, the bottom cancels out. 3x minus 1 equals 0. So x equals 0, or x equals 1. So I've got 0, 0, and I've got 1, 0. Alright. Scroll down a bit. Next step, let's test for symmetry. Forgot the function already. Okay. If I plug in a negative x, I'm going to get... I'll just write it out. I'm going to get positive 3x squared plus 3x over positive x squared minus x minus 12, which is not the same as this, so it's not even. And if I just make the whole thing negative, negative 3x squared plus 3x over the bottom. This is not the same as this, so it's not odd. Not even, not odd, so there's no symmetry. Okay. Part D, if we look for vertical asymptotes, we set the bottom equal to 0. X equals negative 4 and x equals positive 3. These are the vertical asymptotes. Alright, for the horizontal asymptotes, if you remember, the degree of the top equals the degree of the bottom. And if you look at 4.2, I encourage you to use your notes for reference every time we go over things from over previous material. If you look at 4.2, when the degree of the top and the degree of the bottom equal each other, you just take the powers, or I'm sorry, not the powers, the coefficients of the first two terms. Where's my cursor again? There it is. You just take the powers of the first two terms, so in this case 3 and 1, and that is your horizontal asymptote. 3 over 1, which is just 3. Okay. I guess that was part E. Alright, let's go ahead and graph this. Change color for the asymptotes. Vertical asymptote at negative 4, positive 3. Horizontal asymptote at 3. There are intercepts. Let's use purple again. Actually, let's use green. Intercepts at 0, 0 and 1, 0. Okay, let's pull out our calculators. Alright, so where's the cursor? Y equals 3x squared minus 3x over x squared plus x minus 12. Graph. And once again, I mentioned this before, the oops, what's going on here? Oh, there it is. Okay. Sorry, I was looking for the horizontal asymptote. It is there, but the horizontal asymptote is not drawn. Okay, so there's a horizontal asymptote here. As you can see, the graphs are getting closer and closer to it on both sides. And the vertical asymptotes are drawn, but when you graph it by hand, please don't draw those. Alright, so see here. So it looks something like this. And it is not perfectly symmetrical, even though it looks that way. It actually looks something like this. Okay, because it intersects there and there. Okay. Okay. Alright, let's go ahead and do this problem. Oop, let me get my pen. I'm going to factor the top. The top factors to, let me see, 2x minus 1. X minus 2, let me FOIL that in my head, 2x squared minus 4x minus x plus 2, it works. And the bottom is x plus 2, x minus 2. The x minus 2's cancel out. 2x minus 1 over x plus 2. Alright, so there's our simplified version. For part B, I'm going to look for the intercepts. If I plug in 0 for x, I'm going to get 2 on top and negative 4 on the bottom. This simplifies to negative 1/2. So the first intercept is negative 1, oops, sorry, 0, negative 1/2. Okay, now where the top equals 0, remember when we set the whole thing equal to 0, the bottom just cancels out because we multiply it to both sides. So now I've got 2x minus 1 equals 0. So x equals positive 1/2. There we go. Alright. Asymptotes. Oh, I'm sorry, symmetry. If you plug in negative x, you're going to get 2x squared plus 5x plus 2. The reason is because the x squared, negative x times negative x is positive x squared, but this one, negative 5 times negative x is going to become a positive 5. On the bottom, it's just going to stay the same. This is not exactly the same as this, so it's not even. And if I distribute a negative sign, it's kind of obvious that that's not going to equal this either. So it's not odd. So there's no symmetry. Okay. Alright, let's look for vertical and horizontal asymptotes. The vertical asymptotes, where the bottom equals 0. Oops, I'm sorry. I forgot we simplified this. If you remember at the very beginning, the x minus 2 canceled out, so we just have to deal with the x plus 2. X plus 2 equals 0, and x equals negative 2. So the vertical asymptote, x equals negative 2. Alright, the powers, or the degrees of the top and bottom are the same. So the horizontal asymptote is just negative 2 over 1, which is negative 2. So y equals negative 2. Alright, let's go ahead and graph this. Vertical asymptote at x equals negative 2. And y equals negative 2 for the horizontal asymptote. Okay. And the, let's see here, the intercepts were 1/2, 0, and 0, negative 1/2. 1/2, 0 is about there, 0, -1/2 is about there. Okay, let's go ahead and graph this. Alright, as I'm looking at the graph, I'm realizing I made a mistake in part C. I'm sorry, in part D. Probably some of you guys figured it out. The horizontal asymptote, the coefficient in front of the x squared is a +2, not a -2. So, let me erase this.
Well, I mean, I heard voice acting in Final Fantasy X and X2, but they annoy me because I don't like the characters.
There we go. Okay, let's pull this back up. Okay, so it looks something like that.
For me, I'm like, finally they die. I want these guys to die, but things happen. I'm like,
Oh my gosh, I hate technology. Alright, I apologize, you guys. I made another mistake. Initially, in my equation, I was actually using this equation here with a +5x. That's why the asymptote was over here. But, okay, this is what the graph should look like. So, graph over here, graph over there. Alright? Let me change colors. So I've got a graph over here, and I've got, there we go. Alright, and I think I'm going to leave it there for this video. You guys go ahead and do the U-try. We'll save the rest of these for the next video.